My Audio. Live from Studio 5, Mike Ross and Krista Couture with you. Hey, good call on the
Pat Benatar.
We Belong in Pat Benatar.
Sweet track.
Yeah. We're talking about an app here. It's not a new one. It's actually been around since February 2015. It's called We Belong, and really has been welcomed right across Canada by consumers and businesses alike, so much so that the version 2.0 has been released with added functionality and search by city options that offer the searchability right across the country. It's a user-friendly app that consumers can find where they can find inclusive employers in communities across Canada, either by mapping, searching by name, or searching by category. And joining us to talk more about it is Barb Williamson of the Gateway Association of Edmonton. Gateway is a grassroots nonprofit organization that supports people with intellectual disabilities and their families, helping them live meaningful, authentic lives. Barb, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much.
Barb, can you tell us what inspired the creation of this tool?
Well, we had been working in inclusive employment for a period of time and sort of saw a need to not only reward the forward-thinking employers that we were working with who were hiring with diversity in mind, but we also wanted to empower people with disabilities and their families and any other consumers who value diversity in business. We wanted to give them a tool to sort of talk with their purchasing power. So that's sort of what we did in creating the app.
Now, what is an app? What benefits, what advantages does an app offer that a regular website wouldn't?
Well, an app is something that you can have on the go. So you don't even have to worry about typing in a website. You can just click on it and it comes open right away. And it tracks, you can give it permissions to track where your phone is. So if you're hungry and you say, geez, I'd really like to go somewhere to eat but I'd really like to support diversity in business as well, then the app gives you the ability to do that on the road, on your way to wherever you're going or on the street while you're standing wherever you are. So it has that portability that's really important.
And how do you find both the candidates and the potential employers that are populating the app?
What was that? I'm sorry?
How do you find that these businesses that you're listing in the app, and then how do you find the candidates who might be using it for employment?
Well, in our own work, we have an employment team. Our We Belong employment team obviously works with businesses in Edmonton. We also have some developing partnerships with organizations across the country. We're working on some partnerships in Ontario right now, which is very exciting. We've had some bids from BC and Saskatchewan and across Alberta. So other like-minded organizations that see the benefit in meaningful, inclusive employment are also working with us to populate the app. And we're also getting a lot of nominations just from consumers. We get touches from all over. I just had one yesterday from Duncan, BC. So people are still using the app and finding out about it, and sort of it's owned by the community, really. So it's being populated in all kinds of ways.
Now, do potential businesses and employers have to meet any particular criteria to be included in the app?
They absolutely do. We have 4 criteria we came up with. And they're sort of criteria that we think are important in the disability field for, sort of pushing businesses into that forward-thinking place, and organizations too. So one of the criteria is that the person with the disability who's employed has to be included in workplace culture, have an opportunity to be a part of that. There has to be a direct contract between the employer and the employee. That employee has to be paid at least minimum wage, and they need to be included in a workspace alongside all other employees.
When you're talking about an employer taking on a person with a disability, there's always, and we were talking to a gentleman who runs some Tim Hortons restaurants just last
Mark
week.
Wafer?
Mark Wafer, yes, that's right.
We're very familiar with Mark. He came out to our mayor's luncheon last year.
So one of the things that Mark said here and in other interviews was that he believes not only in accessibility and equality in hiring, but also in how you sort of run your business and how you deal with those employees, and that sometimes it doesn't end well. Sometimes employees end up being fired or let go. What's your feedback been from the employee's standpoint on this? Have you encountered those types of situations, and how do you explain that to someone who's involved in that situation?
I think anytime you're working in employment, whether that's, I don't think it matters whether the person has a disability or not, people with varying abilities, the employer is always taking a chance and investing in an employee. So the best way that we know how to build a relationship that we hope works long term, and we have many of those. If you check out our website, webelong.ca, we have tons of successful relationships between job seekers with disabilities and employers. And I think the important part is to take both sides into account. That it has to make good business sense for the employer, and it has to make sense for the job seeker. It has to be meaningful work that they're going to be engaged and plugged into. So we find when we're looking at all those factors and we sort of take more of a holistic approach, looking at what does the employer need, what are the tasks that might be bundled into a position, or what kind of employee is the employer looking for, and try to match that with the job seeker we think would be the best fit, we tend to have the most success. And when things don't go well, they just don't go well. It's no different than any other employment relationship, really. So the expectations are the same.
Barb Williamson is with us here from the Gateway Association of Edmonton, talking about the We Belong 2.0 app.
And what are the long-term goals that you're seeing for the app?
Oh, we have so many. We have such high hopes for this app. It is the only app of its kind in the world in all the research that we've done. So at first we just sort of wanted to penetrate the Edmonton market, and we found that there was just so much interest that we had to release version 2.0 because we were getting taps not only from across Canada but also from the United States. So our goal is in the next year or so is to build those partnerships and have it populated very well across Canada. And you can still nominate from anywhere in the world, but we really want those organizations partnering with us to help populate the app in a meaningful way. Our hope again is to expand into the U.S. market and then to look at worldwide expansion. So really, we have very high hopes for the app and that it becomes the diversity app that people use all across the world.
And are you finding that there are other app developers and people with other ideas that are just sort of trying to sort of pick your brain a little bit, get a little bit more knowledge from your experience in developing their own apps?
Yes. In fact, I just had a phone call with just that kind of phone call yesterday morning. So the more people hear of the app, the more they use it, the more they understand it, the more phone calls we're getting to sort of share expertise and knowledge, and we're more than happy to do that too. We're building a lot of really great partnerships right now.
Barb, great of you to join us. Thanks very much, and all the best as this continues to grow for you.
Thank you very much.
Barb Williamson from the Gateway Association of Edmonton joining us to talk about the We Belong 2.0 app.